All right, hello everyone. I know we've got a kind of small crowd here, but we've got more people that are going to be watching this video later. So welcome to our virtual judge clinic. So I know a lot of folks said they were going to come back and watch the video later, and that is just fine. It's going to work either way. I'll have some time here at the end for some questions for folks who are able to be here by that point. The schedule tonight, we're going to start at 6:30 with just kind of a general about judging debate, more about just big picture how it always looks. And then at 7, I'll do the second part, which will be specifically how you deal with this stuff in a virtual format. So you are welcome to use the chat to ask questions, or there will be a time at the end when I'll pause the recording and we can have a conversation if you need as well. So if you're here, that's because you got the link in the email from your confirmation on Monday. So you've definitely received that confirmation that has your judging schedule. If there's anything that needs to change about that, please just let me know. You will also get an email before any round where you will have an actual ballot. That's what we call a blast. So if you're scheduled to judge debate, then you will get an email explaining that. And then the entire process of judging will go through your membership through tabroom.com. That's going to be what's a lot different from judging an in-person debate tournament. And that's what, like I said, we'll focus on more when we get going at 7 o'clock. So like I said, there is not going to be a judge check-in. You might be expecting, if you've judged in person, there's usually a table where you come and that's sort of your first point of contact. We don't have any first point of contact. You just need to contact me if something's changed in your schedule and you won't be able to judge some of the rounds that you have initially signed up for. We do ask that whatever the scheduled time is for the round, that you try and be in that round by 15 minutes prior to the start time. So that's already included in your email confirmation. So for instance, if you're judging round 1 on Friday, that schedule said 3:45 to 5:45. Well, the official start time of that round is 4 o'clock. So 3:45 already includes that buffer. You do not need to plan to be available like at 3:30 in that instance.
This is not.
Sarah, you're good. Here, I'm going to get you in there in a minute. So also a thing to be aware of, just like at an in-person tournament, the number of judges that we recruit is not always equal to the number of rounds that we have. And so the software will randomly decide which judges are judging and which judges are on standby. So if you don't initially get an email that you have a round, that means you're on standby. You might still be substituted in. And I do want to assure you, as always, that this is done randomly by a computer. It is not me saying, well, I think these people are least qualified to judge a debate, so we'll put them last. Like, it is an entirely random process. And just know that there's always things that happen. Kids get sick or teams drop out at the last minute to where we have to have a little bit of a buffer. So when you get into your competition room, You should confirm that you have 2 debaters who believe they're the affirmative team, and you should have 2 debaters who believe they're the negative team, and you should confirm that their names match the names you see on your ballot. Once that's good, you can let them start the round whenever everyone is ready to begin. Our target is for rounds to be starting at the posted start time, but sometimes that might not perfectly happen, and that's okay. We do have a small army of student tournament officials who will be monitoring rooms by popping in the first 5-10 minutes of the round just to check that everything is running. They have been very strongly encouraged to remain silent unless you indicate that you need something from them. So just, I don't want you to freak out if in the middle of the first speech you see an extra student kind of pop in and then pop back out again. They're just doing their job, making sure that the room is running and that everything is good. So for some quick information about just the structure of a debate, in a round, there will always be one team that is assigned to the affirmative and one team that's assigned to the negative. And it's important that you know, of course, those roles are assigned to them. They don't get to choose. And the team that's affirmative in round 1 will have to be negative in round 2. So that's why it's so important that we are trying to evaluate as best we can the quality of argumentation and what they bring to the table, more than evaluating whether or not they present a position to which you agree. A debate has structured speech and cross-examination time. There should typically only be one speaker speaking at any given moment, except of course in cross-examination there's one person asking questions and one person answering them. In addition to the speech times there on the right, each team will have 8 minutes of prep time, which they can use prior to any speech. And they'll keep track of all this. It's not something you necessarily have to feel like you need to. In virtual debate, teams will always share their evidence prior to giving the speech that includes that evidence. And there's a number of reasons why you may want to be included in that sharing of evidence, even if you typically would not request to do so. Just because in a virtual environment, there may be connection issues where you lose the ability to clearly hear what the students are saying because either your internet or their internet kind of hiccups for a moment. So sometimes being able to go back and look at what they meant to be reading can be helpful. Additionally, there is a bit of an allowance for what we call tech time, which is at your discretion. If there's a situation that they're not prepping, it's that something has gone wrong on the technology side, you can sort of give them a little bit of time to fix that. And then of course you can reach out to me if that tech time gets to be so egregious you start to worry that either someone might be actually just prepping or that they might start causing the tournament to be running behind. But here on the right side is the order of speeches and the structure of a debate. Each speaker of the 4 speakers will give one constructive speech for 8 minutes, starting with the affirmative and then the negative, alternating. Each of the constructives is followed immediately by a 3-minute cross-examination from one of the students from the opposing team. After that's all done, then there are 4 rebuttals. Again, each speaker gets 1 rebuttal, but the rebuttals begin with the negative. So in the middle of the debate, you will have 2 negative speeches in a row. That's on purpose and that's by design.
But so if I understand, this is Carl. So if I understand, then each debate that we may be called to judge lasts about an hour.
It's probably about an hour and a half.
One debate.
Yep.
Okay. I'd helped out in a previous district debate at ONW. I don't remember it taking an hour and a half. Maybe it wasn't the same structure.
Yeah, we do a couple of other formats of debate in the springtime, so that may be what you're remembering.
It was the springtime, yes.
Yeah, our fall policy debate rounds are an hour and a half or so long. So if that does cause an issue for you, we can chat.
No, not at all. Just trying to understand based on my limited experience.
Oh, sure.
Hey, Eric, normally when we're doing the face-to-face, the ballot has that little thing. And that last week where I just did the one round, I realized I got myself lost in virtual world. Do you have just like a printout? I mean, I probably could go online to you, but do you just have like a printout that kind of has that? So that way, when I'm listening, I'm going to just kind of check as I go, because I kind of got lost where they take their prep time, and I'm like, wait, where are we?
Yeah, I can send that to you, Bruce. And also, I think I should be able to put these speech times on the screen somewhere with your ballot.
Oh,
I will try and do that as well.
yeah, that would be nice, because it's when they take the break time, and then we had one. It was one time last year that the kids got themselves confused, and I'm like, I don't think that's the right one, but now I'm like, nope. I kind of mark it off and saying, and if they kind of go off, I said, I just want to clarify. My understanding is it should have been the 2 and C, and so they have that, but.
Right. And I mean, as we're all figuring out this virtual thing, we're in week 3 of the season. So a lot of these kids will still be at their first online tournament, even if it's not their first tournament in general. So
Yeah.
there could be a lot of that confusion for sure.
Can I get that checklist also?
Of course.
The one I can print out?
Mm-hmm. Let me make a note of that real quick.
Yeah, I'm not sure everyone would use it, but if just as a PDF or something, because I'll print off a couple of them to go on a clipboard so I can just kind of monitor as I go.
Yeah, of course. That's a good idea. So in completing your ballot, it will look a little different online. You will want to know which of the speakers is speaking first or second. Now, I think that'll be pretty clear because their names will be on the screen with their faces, because it works. It's the platform we use is similar to this Zoom. But you may want to make sure that you have that clear. Some teams may be sharing a computer or sharing a location together. And so you'd want to know which one is speaking when so that you can rate them accordingly. At the end of the debate, you'll have some spots on the ballot where you can identify which team has won, and you'll rank the speakers. And at our tournament, we're doing 2 different scoring systems that you'll give to each kid. So you will rank the 4 debaters 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 being the best. You will also give students a rating between 20 and 30, with 30 being the best. And there will be kind of some guidelines on whereabout people typically use that scale. And actually, I think I'm about to talk about that. Yeah.
Why 20 to 30? Oh, okay, you're getting ready to...
I'm not sure why those numbers specifically are the way they are. And actually, you'll laugh even more, because then we tell you, really, most of the time, we use numbers between 27 and 29. I don't know why. It's one of those that's sort of the way it is. You go out to the tenths on points, though. So when I'm judging, I typically think of it like if I was given a letter grade, like 75% becomes a 27.5, or an 85 becomes a 28.5, something like that.
Okay.
And like I said, there will be detailed suggestions on a scale that'll be visible on your ballot. But typically speaking, any score below about a 27 indicates that someone has done something that probably requires pretty immediate attention on the part of either the tournament or on the part of their coach. So like if someone has done something that's truly offensive or requires that intervention. So don't go below 27 unless something really weird happens in one of your debates.
We basically have 30s an A, 29's a B, 28's a C, 27 is a D.
Pretty much.
Anything below that's an E.
Yep.
Okay. Do we discuss this with them? Our scores and all that stuff?
So typically you won't. Some in very advanced debates, they'll have that conversation after the debate. But usually what we'll ask you to do instead here is to write your comments within the ballot. And then they'll get that feedback in a written form.
Okay. I do remember that part.
Yeah, so more comments is always better. I think the biggest struggle that folks who are new to judging have is that they want to give all the positive feedback because they tend to be like, oh, this is super impressive. I'm just so proud of what these kids are doing, which is great. And they want to hear that, but they also want to hear why you decided the way that you decided. The team that lost is not going to be thrilled to just hear, oh, I thought you were great. They want to know why they lost. They want to know what they can do better next time. So
And
the
do they
extent
know
that
whether they won or lost at the end of the debate by us?
no, they will find out later on in the tournament from their coach.
Okay, good. So we don't,
No,
all
it's a
of our
very,
comments and grades are blind.
yeah, it's all very non-confrontational.
Okay, great.
We should be able to leave the meeting safely.
Yes.
Yeah. I hope these aren't like the debate I watched the other day. So
No, we have much more structure to them than that, for sure.
But no. What I should say, please, you agree to these rules, and we're going to ask your.
yeah,
Right.
once that shut up, man, I'm done.
So here's some suggestions on some of the most helpful feedback that you can give. If you're thinking about the presentation the students give, now obviously that's going to be different in this format. I've copied this over from the before times when we were debating in person, but you can still try and talk about their eye contact, I guess, with their camera, the poise that they present with, the clarity of their voice, the pace and volume with which they're speaking, all of those things that would go into the presentation components of what they're doing. And also, they would love feedback on the argumentation, how their arguments were organized. Did that come across to you? Are they making logical sense with what they're saying? Do their claims seem valid to you? Are they explaining their ideas that are complex, or are they just sort of assuming you know what's going on? And most importantly, this is a debate, are they refuting the points that their opponents have brought up? We do want to make sure that we check ourselves that you would give the same feedback to students of any gender or racial background, particularly if you're thinking about things like aggression or assertive behavior or the appropriateness of humor that's inserted into the round. I think sometimes some of our students in different groups have had differing experiences with that. So just having that check on what you're thinking about as you're giving those sorts of comments is helpful. And then some feedback we ask that you avoid, particularly now, students' attire and appearance may be the result of a lot of different things. You're seeing into their home, which can be very intrusive for some folks already. So just try to avoid commenting on either positive or negative, whether or not someone is dressed appropriately or things like that. If you do have a specific concern and you want to share it with that student's coach, you can kind of send it to me and I'll filter it through that way. Try to also avoid comments that are outside of a student's control to resolve. And in particular this year, that includes doing your best to make a decision based on how they debated, not how well their tech is set up. And I know at some point that becomes very challenging, right? If their audio quality is so poor that you truly cannot understand what they're saying. But doing your best to have that not come into play as you're making your decision, we'd really appreciate that. So I know, so we talked about this a little bit. Students will, it's pretty normal for them to want to introduce themselves prior to the debate. They might ask you for a judge paradigm or for your preferences or ask about your prior experience with debate. If you don't have a whole lot of meaningful things to say to them that's okay. They're more fishing for folks like us who are debate coaches or former debaters who have kind of strong preferences about one thing or another. So if you just tell them, hey, I'm a community member who's judged a couple times, but I'm sure if you do your debate, then you'll be fine.
Well, what kind of judging preferences would be in their mind? In other words, what would they be? Not that they prefer one judging preference or another, but what is a judging preference to the debater?
So those are things like they're more technical in terms of what kinds of arguments does the judge take into account. Like we teach our students about stock issues or policy making type of judges. Just how do they decide at the end of the debate which team did the better job of debating? And that's really the question they're trying to answer.
Are we allowed to say that. You know,
Yeah,
I'm-
yeah.
I'm
If you
gonna-
want to
I'm gonna be
engage in that
looking for
conversation,
facts.
yeah.
I'm-
If you, Mhm. Yeah, if you want to engage in that conversation, you are certainly welcome to. I just want to give you the space to be comfortable saying, I don't really have a whole lot of preferences, and you can leave it at that. But if you want to say more to that, you certainly can feel free to.
Okay.
Once the debate has begun, generally you should not be interrupting that debate or engaging with them. We always have that one judge who wants to ask their own cross-examination questions, and we'd ask that you please not do that.
It's not right.
After the round, students will thank you for your time, we hope, and some may ask for verbal feedback. But again, like I said earlier, I don't expect, you should not feel like any obligation to give that verbal feedback. You can say, I've written you a good ballot, and your coach will share it with you later, and that's totally normal, and they'll accept that. It's only really at the very high level, like varsity, more collegiate style debate, where there's that give and take with the judge after the round.
So you'd prefer us not to engage then?
I would, yeah.
Done.
But this is the most important slide to me, because the ballot just asks you as the judge who did the better job of debating. And so what that means to you as an individual judge might vary quite a bit, and that's okay. The students will use a lot of technical language and a lot of debate vocabulary and jargon that hopefully they explain to you what it means. If they don't do that, that's on them. That's not on you, because you don't know what it means for a case to be effects topical. And then in Kansas, like I said, we have a specific rule actually in Kansas that students and coaches may not negatively confront judges about their decisions. It's a very non-confrontational thing. You kind of hit the submit button on your ballot, and they won't see it until much later. So there is not that direct, intimidating kind of, well, now I have to answer for what I've done. You don't. They don't see it until much later. If you ever have specific questions or concerns, you can reach out in my email I'm going to send tonight. You can always email me, or I will also give you my phone number that you can text. We'll help you walk through any situations, but we will try not to make a decision for you. We will let you be the one who makes that final call on who wins the debate. But I really want to reinforce and stress for you that the judge is always right. So as in our Kansas rules, how you decide the debate, we are not going to step in and overrule that. So whatever you decide is your way of evaluating whether the affirmative or negative team won the debate that happened in front of you. We're going to support you on that. So I know we've already been kind of answering questions during, and that's fine, but